It was meant to be a historic day, the day when women of all ages would have the right to enter the Sabarimala temple, a right given to them by the Supreme Court. But it was denied to them by protesters, men and women, who lined the route and threatened, blocked and even dragged women out of buses and cars to stop them from reaching the temple. In many cases, these protests were violent. There were stones thrown, women reporters were attacked, families, entire families intimidated, small children reduced to tears. Let's take you through what some of these experiences were like.
It wasn't for lack of trying. Since this morning, women from across the country tried to make it to the temple. But all along the route, protesters, men, women, determined to stop women from making it to Sabarimala. Women were stopped, they were dragged out of buses and cars, they were threatened, abused and heckled. As the police tried to accompany groups to ensure they made it to the temple, by the afternoon the situation had become worse. 40-year-old Madhavi from Andhra was the first to attempt to try and make it to the temple. She was with her 2 small children. She was heckled and intimidated so much that her young daughter broke down. Finally, Madhavi and her family gave up and turned back. Not content with turning the women devotees away, the violent protesters turned their attention to journalists. Women journalists from 4 different news organizations were attacked, heckled and threatened. Stones were thrown at cars and cameras snatched away.
Well, here we are being right now roughed up. My camera person right now is being stopped. We are being heckled.
All of them continued to do their jobs. Whether it was at the last town before Sabarimala, Nilakkal, or at the base camp of Pamba, protesters refused to back down, at many places clashing with the police. There was a lathi charge and protesters including Rahul Ishwar were detained.
There you see a police van with the windscreen broken. There is a lot of tension in the air. Police presence on the ground, but it's not been able to stop devotees here, people who believe that Sabarimala should not be visited by women between the ages of 10 and 50.
That is, I'm condemning that. But the Communist Party never adjusted and accommodated this under the shadow of or misusing a judgment. On the first day itself, they were trying to destroy and diminish and deface the interest of the devotees.
The Sabarimala temple, which opens just twice a year, will be open till the 22nd of October. Tomorrow, if women try and enter the temple, will they succeed? The Supreme Court may have paved the way, but the reality is much harder. But what will be even harder is for the government to explain the anarchy and lack of safety on the ground.
Right now, when we say that the situation is under control, there is heavy police deployment here. The truth remains that this was the same situation, heavy police deployment, even during the daytime when these protests actually turned violent and there were serious law and order issues.
With Maya Sharma in Nilakkal and Sneha Koshi in Pamba, Anusya Mathur for NDTV.
Well, you got an overview of what the day was like at the base camps going up to the hill shrine. But here's what my colleague Sneha Mary Koshi actually experienced on the ground, trying to report under the most difficult of circumstances. Along with our camera person S.P. Babu, they were stopped while they were covering the story. They were stopped, in fact, while they were doing a live report. They were heckled, threatened, asked to leave. In fact, our camera person was shown this massive stone, which he said he was going to be attacked with. Just have a look at those horrific pictures.
Well, here we are being right now roughed up. My camera person right now is being stopped. We are being heckled. The camera is right now being stopped. They are trying to block the camera here. We are not being allowed to even report. This is absolute chaos. We came here to order. We came here to order. This is absolute chaos. This is absolute intimidation.
She wasn't the only one. There were other journalists, but there were also other families, devotees who just wanted the right to pray. A family from Madhya Pradesh trying to reach the shrine with their 70-year-old mother and 22-year-old daughter. What followed was an absolute nightmare.
जो प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे उन्होंने आपकी बच्ची को 22 साल की बच्ची को उन्होंने गाड़ी के अंदर देखा।
गाड़ी के अंदर देखा, सभी लोग खींचना चाह रहे थे। हम लोगों ने 2-3 लोग आए, पापा जी हमारे पास में बैठे थे, तीनों लोगों ने उसको कवर कर लिया, उसको खींचने नहीं दिया। उन लोगों को खींच के
भी हेल्प किया। पुलिस ने हेल्प करने के बाद
2 लोग
गेट को बंद कर दिया और बस को बैक करके और उधर बस स्टैंड पे छोड़ दिया। तो वहाँ पर हम उतार के उसको बच्ची को और माताजी 70 ईयर्स अबव हैं, तो उनको भी बच्ची अकेले कैसे छोड़ते, इसलिए उनको भी उनके साथ छोड़े आए और हम 3 लोग आ गए। सबरीमाला जो मंदिर है, ये हमें तो मंदिर सा नहीं लगता, ये तो गुंडागर्दी का पूरा राज है। यहाँ तो गुंडा राज है पूरा।
आप दर्शन करके आए हैं, आप अगली बार आएंगे?
नहीं, अगली बार नहीं आएंगे और किसी को सजेशन नहीं देंगे,
आने भी नहीं देंगे।
पूरा मतलब धार्मिक क्षेत्र घूम के आए। इतना हमने लेडीजों के प्रति इतना दुर्व्यवहार हमने आज तक नहीं देखा जो यहाँ हो रहा है।
लेकिन ये ऐसा समझते लेडीज को देखते ही मतलब टेररिस्ट है, उसको बता दो कि ठीक है नहीं जाने देंगे, नहीं जाएगी।
All right, joining me now, Kavita Krishnan, Secretary of the All India Progressive Women's Association, will also be joined on the phone line by political analyst Deshatan Nigam in just a short while. But, you know, Kavita, when you see these visuals, did anyone really anticipate after the Supreme Court's verdict that this was going to be as much of a pitched battle as we've seen today?
Probably not. Clearly the police was not prepared, and certainly that's on the government there. But I think that what we are witnessing, what is really disturbing here is not only, these are not only devotees who are indulging in violence. There's also political fanning up of this violence. There's a political orchestration of this violence that we are hearing from the ruling party at the centre, as well as even from the Congress party in Kerala. And I think that that is really what should disturb us, and we should ask the BJP, which is in power at the centre, that why is the Prime Minister not saying anything to cool down the tempers and say that we have to respect. The Prime Minister tried to take credit for the Supreme Court verdict on instant triple talaq, and he is silent on the Sabarimala verdict and his own party's involvement in fanning the flames there. I want to point out that the Supreme Court verdict in both those cases, both instant triple talaq and Sabarimala, rested on the same principle, which is that religious traditions or practices cannot be allowed to violate women's constitutionally mandated equality and rights. All right. So I think that this really is the key issue here. And of course, there's also the issue that even those who are, saying that they are representing, like Mr. Rahul Ishwar and others, who are saying that they are representing the shrine and the devotees, okay? I think the question to them is what a woman devotee has actually said in her petition to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
She has said, she is a mother of a teenage daughter, and she has said that you are insulting the Lord, you are insulting your God, our God, by saying that his celibacy would get destroyed by the very sight of a 10-year-old girl.
Fair enough. But to pick up on your point of what you're calling political orchestration of violence, Deshatan Nigam, what we've seen today was, it's hard to describe this as just a spontaneous outpouring. There were obviously sort of gangs of people, as it were, protesters binded together, who were sort of like at both these camps, the base camps, Nilakal and Pamba, where they were literally blocking devotees from going up at various levels. So, when there are charges now of a political orchestration of violence, how should we look at this? And isn't this something that's only going to escalate?
I was watching the videos of what is happening in Sabarimala very closely throughout the day. And what I noticed, the force was very peaceful at Pamba. And the other places would appear that some goons had come and tried to create violence, and police was watching very clearly from a distance, and they allowed that to happen.
Who are these goons?
Which clearly means there was some kind, the state wanted some kind of a disturbance so that some adverse publicity can be given to the entire movement. One. Secondly, if you look at it
so Deshata Nigam, let me understand this. You're saying that it was the Kerala government that sent these goons to attack women?
It allowed its police to watch, allowed certain goons to discredit this movement, and the devotees are very peaceful out there. Some goons and some lumpen elements have tried to infiltrate this movement, and the police is clearly watching. I saw the clips. They allowed that to happen, which clearly means they wanted some kind of governance and violence should take place so that adverse publicity is to be given to this entire movement. And secondly, I still believe that a solution can be found out by every party sitting across the table, discussing it, and a lot of issues are not gone into the Supreme Court. One, for example, I will tell you, is that Supreme Court has very clearly laid down that Hinduism is not a religion. It is a way of life. And then the question was framed, please listen to me, then the question was framed whether such a practice is an integral part of Hindu religion. How can, once the Supreme Court says Hinduism is not a religion, how can such a question be framed? And second issue which comes, that in Hinduism, way of life changes from age to age. And thirdly, that Supreme Court itself has a number of judgments said that deity, because of Pran Pratishtha, which is done as a living deity, it can decide out itself.
Okay. Lots of points over there, and I think Kavita would want to respond to some of them.
In contradiction with others.
Okay.
Other judgments.
Deshata Nigam, let Kavita respond to all of those points, from accusing the Kerala government of literally fomenting violence over there. Go on, Kavita. How do you respond?
I think that's absolutely ridiculous, because in fact, I think the government, in contrast to other governments like the BJP governments, which did not take a position on Padmavat, for instance, the Kerala government, to its credit, has taken a very clear position saying we will uphold the Supreme Court judgment, and they have tried for dialogue, which has not worked.
But having said that, where was the police? Where was the police today? Because there were many instances where women devotees have themselves said that they were not escorted, or at the last moment the police suddenly told them.
I began in fact by saying that that's on the government, and the police should have acted, no doubt. All right. But having said that, I'll say that, look, let's also have a sense of perspective here. Who's creating all that trouble there? It is certainly, if goons are being sent, then surely those who are backing those goons and defending this violence should be the ones who ask questions. Why is the Prime Minister silent on this? Why is he not saying that why is he not appealing for peace? Why is he not appealing in the name of even the faith to which he belongs, the Hindu faith, telling people that, look, it's not right to disrespect this verdict. Things have to change. Why isn't
What
he
about the rule of law?
Deshata
Nigam, very specifically, the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, has ruled on this matter. What about enforcing the rule of the law?
I have told so on your channel also before. This judgment was meant for the women of Kerala, the devotees of Kerala, and ironically, those devotees themselves rejected the judgment. I do respect the Supreme Court, but it has to review itself in view of the two other points I told you.
Okay, very quick counter. I'm completely out of time.
Yeah, but basically what Mr. Nigam said is that he is also backing the demand for a review of that Supreme Court verdict. I think that is completely wrong. You cannot turn the clock back. And if you review that, then review the instant triple talaq verdict also. You cannot have double standards on these things. I'm very clear that religious practices should not be allowed to trump women's equality and rights.
Okay. We're going to leave it at that tonight, because we are going to continue talking about this. This situation is by no means over. If anything, it's possibly likely to escalate. Remember, the shrine, which opened today at 5 p.m. this evening, in fact, is open now till the 22nd of October. So we're going to keep talking about this. For the moment, thank you for joining us on Trending at 10 tonight.